Hello and welcome to Afternoon Equality. My name is Christy, and today I'm talking to Heather Boddy, who is an inclusive fitness coach and the founder of the Geeknasium, which just sounds like so much fun. She actually does themed workouts, and she has a just really great story of finding her place in the fitness world and acting and body positivity. And I'm so excited to talk with her because we resonate so much with nerdy stuff and with fitness and body image and things like that. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get started. And we can get going. Hi.
Hello.
Good afternoon you're on the East Coast, correct?
I am, yes.
In New York City. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for coming by and chatting with me today. This is super exciting. Especially because so it's funny, like I kind of like took a peek around your profile, like on Facebook a little bit, just to because I thought I saw your profile picture and I was like, oh, like that's a really cool filter. And then I looked closer and I looked through your page and I was like, wait, no, that's not a filter. Like that's you.
I paint myself green, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually like a really awesome like She-Hulk cosplay. And I was like, wait, I'm gonna I feel like if we don't talk about it today, I'm gonna have you on again because I want to talk about cosplay with you because that's something that, especially as we're talking about body positivity and about fitness and stuff today, but I feel like as Comic-Con start coming back around, as we start opening up and as the world comes back together, like that's gonna be something that I'm gonna be hugely interested. I've always been interested in cosplay, but I know that there's a whole culture behind it that I'm also interested in knowing about. So
Yeah,
anyway.
I can very briefly talk. It's all connected. Like my story, it's all connected. So when it comes to body positivity and fitness, it's the same in the cosplay community. Like the same hate comments happen, the same like discrimination, and it's all about looks in it's fitness industry all about looks, cosplay industry they're very similar.
Yeah.
So it's easy for me to tie the two together if you want me to sort of connect the dots there.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Because okay, so you're a fitness coach, correct?
I am a fitness coach, yeah.
And you focus on nerdy stuff, obviously, but also on body positivity and just that discussion around healthy bodies versus I guess I don't know, if you want to go into that a little bit and help me explain, because this is obviously
Yes.
my world.
Yeah, I think what I don't do is that I don't focus on weight loss. I'm a fitness coach who does not focus on weight loss. And I don't have any problem working with people if that is their goal. But what I do is I trick you into actually loving yourself, and then the weight loss doesn't matter as much. So I'll start working with people and I'm like, okay, great. Weight loss is your goal, but here are all the mindset tools that you need to get to reach that goal. And then suddenly they realize, oh, weight loss isn't what I was looking for. It was all these other things. And so that's kind of and I chose nerds to work with because we really get the short end of the stick a lot. There's just, I was thinking about how there's just this nerds get put in a box, people just get put in a box. Everyone has their box that they want to fit into. And the nerd box really does tick off sort of lazy, only cares about video games, lives in their mom's basement. And that's not true. I mean, there are a such thing as that kind of nerd culture, the incel culture, they exist. But that does not have to be what you think of when you think of a nerd. And so I kind of wanted to empower people to be yeah, nerds are cool. And it's really great because nerds are actually kind of becoming cool. So that's
Yeah. No, I think especially with the current comic book movies and superheroes and stuff, it's definitely become more and more mainstream, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the word. And I love just this idea of people kind of letting their nerd out. But you're absolutely right with with nerd culture and with body positivity and weight loss. I feel like there's sort of this there's this pressure to I've had this conversation with Carrie and with other people of like with labels and like wanting to like live up to a label, but also wanting to like having that label be very limiting into like what you're allowed to enjoy or what you're allowed to do. And so I feel like with like nerd culture, like there's like people just assuming you like you wear glasses and sit behind a computer all day, which is like most people, it's not just nerds anymore. Like that's like kind of your average corporate life.
Yeah.
Um, and but then like with body positivity and with fitness, like there's this like I think like there's this very prominent like we equate weight loss with happiness, or like we
Mhm.
equate skinny bodies with like being happy, and that's not necessarily true.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, and like and with body positivity, I think like a conversation that I've been seeing coming up more and more is just how toxic like that can be, because it's like because you're trying to live up to like you're constantly disappointing yourself if you're not hitting that goal. You're constantly like, you're again like you're never living up to, like, you can't really be like a fitness person because you don't look like this, and so you're always kind of striving to look like this, but you never do, and then you just feel like you fail all the time. It's kind of like a vicious cycle that you end up in.
Yeah, it's all of these, like, labels, and I am gonna be the first person to tell you, like, I used to look for something to define me. I really did. I was one of those people who kind of grew up and was like, I loved everyone, I loved everything. I was a huge people pleaser because I just didn't know who I was, you know? And I think a part of that stemmed from growing up overweight, because when you have that stigma attached to you, you're like, I just want people to like me. And so I became the type of person who was I was the nicest, funniest person, because that's what I felt like I had to be. But because I was always the nicest, funniest person, lost exactly who I was in all of that. And I really needed other things to define me. And I would define myself by the things that I liked. And when I was younger, like, people defined me by, like, oh, Heather's that chick that's obsessed with Harry Potter. That's my first nerddom. I've got a jacket sitting right behind me right here. My entire backpack is like, I'm still a huge Harry Potter nerd despite all of the J.K. Rowling stuff, which we do not have to talk about today because that's a
Yeah.
whole other podcast episode. But anyway, but I into Harry Potter when I was young as a form of escapism from my life. It was just what I chose to do. It's the way that I chose to escape. And I let being a fan of Harry Potter sort of define me, and I became the girl who loved Harry Potter. I was obsessed with Ron Weasley slash Rupert Grint. So like it was a thing. Like, all my friends were they wouldn't make fun of me, but it was like this thing where it was like, oh, it's a redhead, Heather must love him, and like, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And um and to be perfectly honest, I got into my adulthood and moved to New York City and still didn't really, like, I've always been the same person at my core, but I've always still looked for other things to define me. And it was really an eye-opening experience to slowly realize that, like, to just let myself be myself. It's been a really long process, took me almost 30 years to get there, but, like, that's sort of when I was able to open up my eyes and be like, "You've always been who you are. You don't need these labels to define you." And even when I was in the fitness industry, when I got into the fitness industry, it was the same way. It was like, oh, now I'm a fitness professional. I have to let that define me. When I was an actor, I'm an actor. I have to let this define me. If I don't get work, I'm not an actor, then I'm a failure, right? So, like, those things are what I let define me. It was like, because that's why I moved to New York City, was for acting. So it was like, if I'm not getting work, I'm a failure. I can't use this label as an actor if I'm not actively acting. So who am I? And then when I became a fitness coach, it was the same thing. It was like, if I don't look like how a fitness coach is supposed to look, who am I? And it took a really long time to get to a point where I was like, I don't need to be anybody else. Like, this is your fitness instructor. This is what she looks like. You know, this is your this is and it's just been like a really great, and that's what I want to help other people do too, is just realize, like, you are enough as you are. We don't need all these outside labels. Sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're nice. You need core values. not labels. That's what I will say. You need to know who you are at your core, and then let that help with your decision making in the future. Because
Mhm.
when you're living, we all have core values innately. We may not know off the top of our head, but we've all got them inside of us. And when you're living off of those core values, you feel great. Your life feels in alignment, all of that. When you're not living within those core values, you feel out of alignment, you feel out of whack, and you feel like there's something missing, or like you're trying to be someone else. And so I think that's the biggest difference between like labels and using those to help you, and actually living your most authentic life, is like that, is like knowing who you are at your core.
I love that.
Yeah, I didn't even know we were gonna get there, but we went there.
No,
So
I love it. I love it. That's what I love about these conversations, because like, I feel like we kind of go into it thinking one thing, but then it's amazing, like as we start to like really open up and get into it, just like what else comes to the surface. But so kind of going in that vein, like what does body positivity mean to you, and what role does it play in, I guess, in both like your journey to where you are now and how you're helping others in this
yeah.
role?
So I'm gonna explain how I got where I am today, because it's a long story, so I'm gonna try to keep it brief. But it's been a really long journey to body positivity, but I think I grew up in a very body positive environment. And I want to say that I am very privileged to have grown up in an environment where I was embraced for my body, because I know a lot of people who grow up in larger bodies do not have the same experience that I had. So I was very lucky. Growing up, I've been large, overweight, fat, whatever you want to say, my whole life. Like, it's just been a part of who I was. I was raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I went to a performing arts school growing up, and was surrounded with all of these amazing creative people, and then I could go on a whole nother side tangent about how it's so important to have arts in schools, because it just creates an incredible community, incredibly inclusive, diverse, open-minded, and that's the environment I grew up in. And I'm like, every kid should have an opportunity to experience this. But again, that's a whole nother podcast episode. But um I think that I am really grateful that I grew up in an artistic environment, because I think that helped develop who I am today. And it was a very open-minded place, a very diverse place, body diversity, culture diversity, skin color diversity. It was just a very diverse environment. And I'm so grateful I got to have that experience growing up. And then I get to college, and I go to a predominantly white college in Ohio. And not only is it a predominantly white college, it is also a college that is just like, everyone sort of looks the same. All these women are like clones of each other. All the dudes, it's like a fraternity, and what's
Like
the
Stepford wives.
sorority? Yeah, it's very strange. It's like a very strange. It was surreal for me to go from this like incredibly diverse, everybody celebrating everybody. Not to say that there wasn't competition, and not to say that I didn't have my own drama in high school. Like, there's always going to be that. But college was the first eye-opening experience that I had, where it was like, people don't think like me. People don't like me because of the way that I look, because I'm fat and different. And people are judgmental. And it was like, my mind was just like, people are like this? At how old are you in college? 18? That was like, 18 was the first time I really experienced that. And again, it's like a huge privilege, but at the same time, it rocked my world, because I was already an adult. Like, why are people not embracing everybody? Like, it's
Well,
just
and,
like this.
and I feel like that's so interesting that that was your experience, because like I feel like a lot of times it's reversed.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people come from, I mean, like that's kind of how I was. Like I was, I came from, not like my parents were definitely very liberal compared to like others, but like at the same time, it was like, I grew up in a very small town that was predominantly white. And so I didn't grow up with a lot of diversity. I was the diversity.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was like literally me and like 5 other Asian kids, and like we had like one black guy in our school. Like it was like so like my experience growing up was the exact opposite, whereas like I came from like a much more like not conservative, but like a much more like it's like not diverse place. And then I moved to LA, and LA is like, you know, boom, like whoa, like it's a whole other world. And so like the awakening that I had like wasn't like the awakening I had, like, yes, it was kind of as a young person who was feeling that adversity of being different from everyone else, like that was kind of where I started. And then I moved into a place where I felt more accepted. And so I think that's interesting that your experience was kind of like the reverse of that, whereas like you had like the experience of being of having exposure to all these different people, cultures, you know, skin tones, like all these things, and then you went and then you experienced the opposite of it, and that like it kind of closed itself off, and it's like, wait, what? Like,
It was confusing. Yeah.
yeah,
It's very strange. And what I will say though, I mean, like being I still got microaggressions when I was in my younger years. And it's funny how those things stick with you. I'm sure you got them as well. Like when you become an adult, like I still get triggered to this day when I step on an elevator because one time I was getting on an elevator and a guy who was my age made a comment about how the elevator jumped when I got on it. And he's like, "Oh, Heather just made the elevator jump when she got on the elevator." And so like that really like stuck with me because like now whenever I step on an elevator, I always feel for it to sort of like jump when I get on.
mm,
Very like, and it's just like, and I'm like, no, he was just an asshole, like 12-year-old kid, but like that stuck with me.
yeah,
Um, and like, and other things like when my friends were all like, we would all talk about our like greatest features, you know, when you're young and you do that, like, oh, what's your best feature? And everyone will always be like, oh, Heather, your best feature is your eyes. Because it's like, if you're fat, there can't be any other beautiful feature on your body except for your eyes, apparently.
right.
Not that I don't have beautiful eyes, but like what I'm saying is like, you know, um, and 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 I pigeonholed myself, I think, because of those things. Like I was the biggest girl in my ensemble acting. You know, we were in this like elite ensemble group, and I was always cast in these like very matronly roles. And I didn't realize that was a microaggression either. Like I was always playing a mom, a cook, a maid, or a nurse. Same thing in college. I get to college, and that's another thing I will say though is that like being in theater saved me because if I had any other major at that school that I went to, I would not have like I would not have I'm not going to say survived, but like I would not have done well. Like it would have taken a really big toll. But because my majored in theater, I found my people and those people were like me and those people had my back. And those people, we were like the weirdos of the school, right? So so in college, like if I wasn't in theater, I don't know what I would have done because it I would have had to like transfer schools or something. It would have just been so uncomfortable. Um but it was the same thing in college. I was still only ever cast in those same roles: mom, maid, cook, nurse, grandma. I played grandma more. I can do stage makeup, age stage makeup, like as quick as I can be like, boop, boop, boop. Okay, I look old now. Like because I did it so much. More so put my hair in pin curls to put on my curly old woman wigs. Like, yeah, I was always playing those kinds of roles. And then graduating, I had another mind-blowing moment. You know, the world just keeps teaching us lessons. I graduate from college, moved to New York City, which is one of the most diverse cities in the world. Felt like I was back home, like with my people, back home. Good. I'm out of college, can go live life. And then I get here and I go into the freaking acting industry, and it's right back to like being at college. Like the acting industry is so judgmental of your appearance. And not only that, but I had never played a role that was age appropriate for me, which you have to do in the real world. Like in college and high school, I was always playing these old ladies. I can't do that when I'm fresh out of college, 22. So I get here and I'm like ready to take on the world. And I realize that there are no roles available to me. And I mean that because of how I looked, the way I had been typecast, and the way that casting directors, agents, people cast shows and TV and film, because they have that same exact mindset. And so I was like, okay, I have a couple of options here. I can either lose a bunch of weight enough to become an ingenue, or I can play up the fact that I'm fat and try to be a Melissa McCarthy type, which is not my type at all. So I tried the play fat, play silly, play whatever. It didn't work for me because that's not my personality. So going back to what I said at the beginning about, like, I didn't know who I was. And the
Mhm.
acting industry certainly did not help with that, because it was like, the ways that they help you pick your type are like, oh, look at people who are acting now and see which one you're most like. And I'm like, there's nobody has roles like me. I can either go Melissa McCarthy or, like, you know, I yeah, there's nobody else. I don't know. Like, it's just like so hard. And like, yes, it's gotten better. This was 9 years ago, mind you. So yes, it's gotten better in the 9 years. There are definitely more people I can sort of be like, I would also do America Ferrera, because I do have similar features to her and a similar body type. So I was like, okay, I got Melissa McCarthy or America Ferrera. Those are my two. Like, okay. Um, but anyway, so then I went the opposite spectrum, and this is getting into how I became a fitness coach. Um, I started going to the gym, and I started, for the first time in my life, again, this is a privilege. I was 22 years old. For the first time in my life, I started punishing my body for the way that it looked. And I was like, you need to lose weight. You need to be good enough to be cast in a show, because if you don't lose weight, you are not going to act. You are going to be a failure. And that's like how I spoke to myself. And so that is my sort of beginning relationship with fitness. It started from this very negative place of wanting to change everything about myself. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of people's fitness journeys begin. It starts with some place of them saying, I don't like where I am right now. I want to change my body and hope that it will make my life better in some way. And that's where a lot of people begin. And when you begin a fitness journey from that place of self-hate and from that place of lack, as I like to call it, like, I need to lose weight or my life will not be good, right? If it's coming from this place of lack, you do not get any of the benefits of exercise. And I am not saying weight loss, because you can lose weight if you're approaching fitness from that place. Weight loss is not the benefit that we're talking about. What I am talking about is the endorphins that come with exercise, is the boosted mood, is the stress relief, is the other amazing benefits that come from exercise. But when you're approaching it from that place of lack, you never feel that, because it is clouded by self-hate. It is clouded by a desire to change your body. And then maybe once you see the scale go down, you're like, oh, I'm doing something right. You get a little tiny endorphin boost, but it goes away again because you just want to reach another goal. And so um, let's just fast forward a little bit. That's where I started in my fitness journey. A little bit later, you know, I was confused. I was doing all of these things. I was upset, thinking, why don't I feel good after I exercise? Aren't people supposed to feel, aren't people supposed to feel happy after they exercise? And it was just like there was a disconnect there. But what did feel good, and this is something that we can talk about later with body positivity and everything, was all of the attention I was getting from other people for the weight loss. It was like, oh, Heather, you look amazing. Oh, what are you doing? You look
Yeah,
so
the
good.
external validation.
It was, and I started getting cast in shit. Well, talk about validation, right? But I didn't feel good, right? I'm sitting here beating myself to death, and I don't like it, but everyone else seems to. The casting directors seem to, and it was a really bad place to be, negative mind place to be. And the other thing is I didn't realize it until I was out of it, because I was getting that external validation. I was like, I must be doing something right because I'm getting cast in shows. Everyone's telling me I look amazing. Guys are starting to notice me for the first time ever. Wonderful, wonderful. Everything must be going okay. And then I discovered this workout program that was at home. You could just do it with no equipment, just moving your body on a yoga mat. And it was just like an at-home workout DVD. And I was like, all right, we'll try this, because I was looking for something core strength and flexibility, because I had been just torturing myself at the gym trying to lift weights, not knowing what I was doing. So I was like, okay, we'll try this at home workout video, core strength, flexibility. We need it. We love it. And at the same time as discovering that workout program, I had started reading the She-Hulk comic books, specifically the Charles Soule Law and Disorder run, which is my favorite of all the She-Hulk runs. But anyway, started reading that. And I knew who She-Hulk was, but it wasn't until I like started reading this specific storyline of hers that I had like a mindset flip in my relationship, not only with fitness, but with my body. Because it was the first time that I had seen a woman decide to show the parts of herself that are different on purpose. And I'll explain what that means. So She-Hulk is the Hulk's cousin, for anyone who doesn't know. And the Hulk, Bruce Banner, when he hulks out, he has no control over his power. He just runs around like a giant toddler smashing things.
Yeah, Hulk smash.
Hulk smash. Yes, exactly. However, Jennifer Walters, because she's a very intelligent woman and because she had the blood transfusion from Bruce, when she is in her Hulk form, she's actually the same level of intelligence as when she's in her human form.
Right. She's a lawyer, correct?
She is, yes. She's a lawyer. She's very empathetic. She's sneaky. The reason that she got shot and needed the blood transfusion in the first place is because she was following people around. But anyway, she chooses, this woman, Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, chooses to stay in her Hulk form because it empowers her. She feels like people will actually listen to her. She feels like people will pay attention to her. She feels amazing and chooses to stay in her Hulk form rather than go back to her human form. And I was like mind blown by that decision. I was like, if you choose to walk around like a giant green muscly woman over being a regular, small human, and I'm trying to wither myself away to nothing for what? I was like, what am I doing? It was like a huge mindset shift for me. And then because of that mindset shift, whenever I was doing my workouts, I started channeling She-Hulk in those workouts. And I was like, yeah, screw losing weight. I want to have thighs that are big enough to crush a man's skull. That's my new goal. And so like that's kind of how I improved my relationship with fitness, was by channeling She-Hulk in my workouts. And it worked. It really did help, because weight loss suddenly did not become the goal anymore. It was like, I don't care. I don't care. It's about connecting to my body in a way that feels good for me. It's about being in control, much like Jennifer Walters is in control in her She-Hulk form. Like, I want to be in control of my life and who I am. And because of that mindset shift and because of feeling so good in my body at that point, that's when I decided to become a certified fitness coach, because I was like, I want to teach people that they can do the same thing. You do not have to have all these stupid fitness industry goals. You can have goals that fit with what you want. You can feel good in your body and you can have fun working out, which is something I had never, if you would have told me exercise could be fun when I first started, I would have been like, no, you're an idiot. But channel your alter ego in your workout. Make your workout themed like something nerdy. Do something you actually enjoy doing instead of what someone tells you to do. Oh, suddenly working out is actually enjoyable. Mind blowing.
Well, I think you just said like the key thing too, and this is a theme that has been brought up a lot in my conversations and a lot just in like my daily life. Just this idea of like like when you're talking about the external validation, it's sort of it brings me back to this idea that I've been, just questioning a lot of things in my life where it's like if it doesn't feel right, but everyone is telling me it's right, is it still right, or is it like, but like if it doesn't feel good, like how can it be right and it doesn't feel good? How can it be right and don't feel good? I can't even like speak English anymore. Like, but you know what I mean? And so like with your fitness journey and all that, like I'm curious because like did you end up ever like reaching your goal weight or anything like that? Or was it like did you
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I can talk on this too. So, like, I still never got to the body positivity question either, but here we are. Um, uh, happened is for a while, I still, even though was no longer focusing on weight and more focusing on channeling She-Hulk, once I got into the fitness industry as my profession, a whole different layer of imposter syndrome fell upon me. And that really messes with your head because people have even said like I sneak around in those Facebook groups. I listen to clients when they come into the gym to look for a personal trainer. They People say like if my trainer is not ripped, I don't want to work with them. If my trainer doesn't look like XYZ, they can't possibly help me reach my goals. And it's just so frustrating because it's not true. You can be fit at any size, and that's what's really it's hard because we've been so taught the opposite of that,
Mhm.
and that you're only valid if you have abs, and you're only like as a fitness instructor I should say you're only valid if you have abs, and you can only if you've got like such muscular definition in your body, like that's the only way that people will take you seriously. But the fact of the matter is, what I have learned is that people like when you're human,
Yeah.
honestly. And if I'm a human who has abs, great. If I'm a human who has fat on her body, great. Um, but the things that it takes also to have such muscle definition is a lifestyle that I'm not willing to work at, you
I
know?
was, I was
Like
gonna say
I'm
like
people no, yeah, sorry. Fitness industry professionals choose what they do and do not want to sacrifice. And I'm not willing to sacrifice beer, cheese, and peanut butter. I'm just not going to do it. And so, like, and for a while I did because I thought I had to, because I thought I needed abs, right? But then I realized I was so unhappy. I like cheese, okay? I like peanut butter, and I like food, and I like drinking every now and again with my friends. And the thing about it is that like everybody says that if you want to be healthy, if you want to be considered a valid fitness coach, if you want to be considered valued, whatever. And again, I'm telling you, coming from someone who was a people pleaser, coming from someone who really didn't know who they were, it's been really awesome and empowering to discover that now what I do with my clients, when I sit down with them and work with them and help them figure it out, the first question I ask them is, what are you not willing to sacrifice? Because if it's pizza, great. But guess what? You probably won't have abs if you want to eat pizza. And I'm not going to say that it's impossible or that it's not impossible or whatever, but like I'm just being realistic. And there's just a lot of things that these people who do have the bodies that the fitness influencer bodies with the abs and the things and that, they sacrifice a lot to look like that. And sometimes they don't talk about it. Or, and this is a big or it's genetics, and they just happen to have a genetically more predisposed body to look that way. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But if that is your genetic predisposition, you cannot teach people how to look like you, because they will never look like you because it's your genetics. Sorry about it.
like I no, I mean you're like what I was gonna say was like all because I've had personal trainers in the past, and as much as I've loved them, like it took a while to realize like as much as like I love you, like I can't I know I'm never gonna look like you because like the reason they look the way they do is because most of them were lifetime athletes. They're
There you
lifetime
go, too.
athletes, or I had one who was she was a physique competitor. And
Hmm.
so she felt like she was regularly doing the master cleanse. She was regularly eating boiled chicken and boiled broccoli. And like, and it was, it was like it was a joke going through the
Oh,
gym of like, when her and her boyfriend at the time had to make weight, it was just because, you know, because they were also both well, he was a fight competitor, so he was a jiu-jitsu competitor, so he had to make a certain weight in order to compete. But so then when they both ended up having to go on diets at the same time, her for physique and then him for his fight, like it was just like you didn't want to be in the house with them because they were both starving essentially.
Ooh, yeah,
And they're
that
both just
happens
angry all
too.
the time because they're both starving. They're both hangry all the time.
Yo, yeah, that happens. And so, yeah, so I did at one point in my career reach my quote unquote, well, actually, no, I don't think I ever reached my quote unquote goal weight. But I will say that I reached the lowest weight that I have been in my adult life. Um, and I didn't see it. And it's, I like to call it fat girl brain. I, I used to have a podcast called Love Your Bod where I talked about this a lot, but like people treated me differently. And this is a proof that fat phobia is real too. People treated me differently. They were nicer to me. Guys were nicer to me specifically. Um, I got taken more seriously in my fitness career. I got hired at gyms that probably wouldn't have hired me if I didn't look the way that I looked. Um, and I was also so tired all the time because I wasn't eating enough. I was over exercising because not only was I teaching classes, but I was also doing my own workouts on top of that. Like there was a point where I was working out probably like 23 hours a week.
Ooh.
Yeah. Could you imagine? And not eating enough food to supplement that, right? And because I was in this place where I didn't see it, I thought I had to work harder. I thought there was always something more to do. And and I couldn't believe I this is going to sound strange to say, but I'll say it. When I look back at pictures of me from that period in my life, it's hard to believe that that is actually what I looked like because I didn't see it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm just like, how did I not see that that's what I looked like? But again, we're clouded by our whole entire life leading up to that point. And that's why it can be dangerous, is because even when you get to the healthiest weight for your body, it's never enough. You're going to want to go down, 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 down. And I'm going to tell you the reason I never reached my quote unquote goal weight is because my goal weight was based on the bullshit BMI that is like, oh, what's the healthiest weight for your height and your gender and your age, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like that's all bullshit, by the way. Um, Many fitness professionals will agree with me, but like many won't. And because of that, I think I'm like 5'6". And at the time I was like in my mid 20s. And so I'm like, I should be 135. That was the number that was in my head. And I never got even close to that. And I look back at those pictures and I'm like, and I thought I wanted to lose more weight. I would have been a wisp of myself. I can't even imagine. Like,
Yeah.
and I got down to this weight where I was just depressed and I was in a an abusive relationship, and I was letting all of this stuff happen to me because I was so focused on my body. And that was the only thing I mean, like, I'm not going to say it's the only thing I cared about, but it was the only goal I had. And it's so sad to think about now, is like, why is that one of the greatest accomplishments that someone can have, is weight loss? And there was a moment in my life where, like, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, was it 5 years ago? 3 years ago, more like 3 years ago. If you would have asked me 3 or 4 years ago, what's your greatest accomplishment? I would have said the fact that I've lost 80 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have caught me posting before and after photos. You would have caught me doing all these things that I hate about the fitness industry. And I was doing it because I felt like I didn't fit in. And the biggest thing that changed my mindset from there was discovering who I am at my core and wanting to live that out. And it's hard. I have to work on it every day. I have gained almost all of the weight back that I have lost. And I used to think that I was an exception to the rule because I kept that weight off for a really long time. And I think the only reason I did is because I am a fitness professional too. I will put a disclaimer on that. Because I just like working out as my job, you know. Um, but watching my body come back to where it is now was hard. And it was only hard because of society making me think that I'm a failure because I have gained all my weight back. It's all societal. And I read these books, Health at Every Size. I read the book, The Fuck It Diet. I highly recommend these books, by the way. And they say that 90% of diets fail, and that 90% of specifically women who go on diets will gain all of their weight back, if not more. And yet the industry profits off of us feeling like a failure when that happens. Profits off of it. Because it's the only industry where if they failed, it makes you feel like a failure. If you were taking, let's say, like, if you were taking a medication for something and the medication stopped working, what would you do? Stop taking that medication, right? But prescribe a diet to someone and suddenly it's them who's the failure, not the diet, right?
Right.
It's stupid, but we all do it. And it's because it's insidious, this industry. And so that's why now I no longer post before and after photos. I no longer market weight loss in my program, and I focus only on holistic health, coming from a place of, I want you to be confident. I want you to feel good in your body. I want you to feel at home in your body. And I want you to, I don't even think overall health needs to be the goal. It can be. It can, I mean, like it certainly is great if you want to be healthy, but there's no moral value in being healthy. Like, you're not a good person if you're healthy. You're not a bad person if you're not healthy. But the society has led us to believe that, like, a fat, lazy person is a bad person, and a
Right.
skinny person who does cardio is a good person. And that's not true. So I don't think I answered your question, but that's my tangent
No,
for that.
you totally did. And this kind of leads into my next question about, like, what does, like, how have you built inclusivity into your practice?
Yeah.
Because I think that is so important.
Yeah. I am working on this every day because the word inclusivity means more and more to me every day. Inclusivity is also one of my core values, going back to core values. And I think it's because of how I was raised in this, like, very diverse environment where everyone was different and we embraced our differences. We didn't make each other feel bad about them. And I try really, really hard to make my workouts inclusive to people in all types of bodies. And something that I fall short of is with larger bodies and disabled bodies. It is, my workout program is not quite accessible to that yet because I have not figured out how to modify things so that it includes them. And that's my own shortcoming, but it's something that I'm working on, of like, okay, how can I make my workout program accessible to people with physical disabilities? How can I make my workout program accessible to someone who's in a larger body and they can't get down on the ground or get up off the ground or something like that? And it's only difficult because I'm making these themed workouts and I'm trying to make them fun. And I'm like, okay, well, we got to do this move because it looks like Spider-Man, right? I'm like, oh, but that move that looks like Spider-Man is not accessible to everybody. So then I have to think about, okay, well, how can I make this move that looks like Spider-Man also accessible to another body? And so that's where I'm at right now in terms of looking to make it more inclusive in that space, is like physical disabilities and larger bodies. But other ways that I look for it is that my price points are not terrible. So like, I'm not one of those people who it would be too difficult to work with me financially, because it's not astronomical, basically. I also have a lot of free resources as well. And I think inclusivity is important to think about in terms of that as well. Um, and inclusivity just in terms of what I how I accept and work with everybody on such an individual level. All about the individual. What do you need? Not what do I think you need. I'm going to listen first and then say, does that resonate with you? And if you're like, no, I'll challenge you on it a little bit and be like, are you just scared? Or is this really no? And then work with people from there. Because I think that's another huge issue in the industry is that, and I used to be like this, again, rewind 4 years ago. This worked for me, it will work for you too. Winky smile, gun finger, whatever, just because
Yeah.
it worked for me. But that's not true. It's not. And I've come to discover that. And so now it's like I'm really big on what works for each individual person. And so yeah, so and I try to be as inclusive as possible. I try to be come, please, everyone, you're welcome. You're all welcome here. Love you, hug you. When issues come up, I discuss them openly. Black Lives Matter, that kind of stuff. It's like we're talking about this. And if anyone in my community is not comfortable talking about it, I say, well, then you shouldn't be part of this community. Because that means you don't have the same core values as us. And that means, um, or I say, are you open to have this discussion? And if they are not, then it's sort of like,
Maybe this isn't the place for you.
exactly. So that's kind of what I talk about when I talk about inclusivity, really.
I love that. I love that. So, I guess like just to kind of wrap this up a little because we've been going for almost an hour, which is great. I love it. What programs do you offer? Is it one-on-one coaching? Is it group workouts? Like what do you offer and how do people find you?
Yeah, I do one-on-one coaching. It is not personal training. It is more like a face-to-face interview, where we sit down and work on goals. We start with your mindset. How do you talk to yourself? What is your self-talk like? And we break down your relationship with food, your relationship with fitness, and your relationship with your mind. And then we create some tangible goals from there that are actually working within how you're motivated. Um, and we do some work on that as well. And then I have a workout program, which is a community, and it is a monthly membership that you can join and just pay a monthly fee to be part of. And that is the Geeknasium workout program, where all of the workouts are themed like something nerdy. And right now we are in Marvelous May, so all the workouts are Marvel themed. And I do, inside of that monthly membership, it's the workouts, which are the Monday workouts are cardio based, the Wednesday workouts are strength based, and the Friday workouts are core and flexibility for restoration. Again, speaking of inclusivity, the reason I only do 3 workouts a week is because I don't want people to be overwhelmed and think that they have to work out a ton. So I'm like, a baseline fitness level, 3 days a week is beautiful. And that gives people a good base to work with. And then if they want to add more, they have access to the whole entire Geeknasium library to add more. And then I also do live coaching in that group, and it's just like on a thread sort of. So I post like live coaching, ask away, and then people can ask their questions and I'll comment back my answers. And then I also do a deep dive mini training once a month that's just sort of like theming whatever nerdy thing into whatever fitness thing that I can talk about. And so like, for example, last month was Disney Pixar month. And so I talked about how the hero's journey in like a Disney or Pixar film is very similar to our fitness journey and all of the obstacles that come along the way. So that comes once a month. So that's what it's like to be in the fitness membership, but those are workout videos, and those are what I'm sort of working on right now to make a little bit more inclusive to all bodies.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, like that's so great. I mean, this was amazing. We didn't even really get to talk about the cosplay stuff, so I may still have to like. I mean, I just like I love talking to you, and I think it's your story resonates so much with me because I have gone through like just very similar experiences with my workout journey, my fitness journey. Like I've been the down, I've been the up, and I've had that sort of like body dysmorphia of like when I was like at my smallest, I was training for Spartan races and I was still like actively trying to lose weight, but I was like I did 3 Spartan races and it was still like
Yeah.
I was still very unhappy with myself. And it's like I was doing Spartan races, like anyways. But then
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
like and just with the cosplay, I think like there's definitely a conversation there that I would love to get into with body positivity and cosplay. But this was great. I know it's Saturday, so I don't want to take up any more of your weekend. Thank you so much for coming and having this talk with me. And yeah,
Thank you. And I think I forgot to say where people can find me. I am on Instagram. It's just my name at Heather Boddy, HeatherBoddy. And I also have a free Geeknasium Facebook group. And I can send you the link to that so
yeah.
that anyone can join. But it's if you search Geeknasium, which is GeekNasium, free Facebook community, you should be able to find it, but I can also send the link to make that easier.
Yeah, I'll definitely I'll include the link in the show notes and everything. So that's perfect.
Yay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll have to catch up again soon to talk about the rest of it.
Yes, perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Heather for taking time out of her Saturday to come in and chat with me here. I was really excited that we got to talk about She-Hulk a little bit, and I do want to have a follow-up conversation with her about her cosplay and the culture around that. So I'll definitely let you guys know when that happens. As she mentioned, you can find her on Facebook and on Instagram, and I will have those links for you in the show notes and in the captions, and also just on my socials. So keep an eye out for that. And if you do want to get in on the Geeknasium, please do. It sounds like so much fun. I think I'm actually going to look into it myself. Thank you again so much for being here. It's another beautiful week, another great conversation, and I can't wait to sit with you again next week. Cheers.